What you just heard there were the opening bars of the song California by local musician Leigh. He has new music out and some really fun updates. So he's joining us this morning to tell us more. Leigh, good morning.
Buenos dias, good morning.
Good morning. Yes, tech has been a little bit tricky for us from home, but we've got you up and rocking today, kind of in a tour capacity. I'd love to ask right out the gate, Leigh, for you to tell us a little bit about yourself. We're going to start with where you're from.
Well, I was actually born in Houston, Texas, but I tried to keep that on the QT. When I was just a little turd hustler, little bitty guy, and I'm actually half British and half Texan. And you can tell I'm half English because when you say something I don't like, I put on that rather keen British expression, say the whole South, he's rhetoric. So I had this very interesting background with a father from Texas and a mother from England, which I think is why I turned out to be the nutcase that I am today.
Well, that leads me to my next question. When did you, a nutcase, decide to start getting invested in music? Kind of what drew you to it, and how long have you been playing?
Well, the abbreviated version is that I actually aspired to be a professional motocross racer, and then I got hurt really bad. I got a broken leg, and I ended up buying a guitar at a furniture store, and it all started there.
Wow. So it kind of got you through the period of time where you were sitting around, huh?
Yeah, it was a long recovery, and so I actually started plunking on the guitar, but ironically, I ended up being a singer before I ended up being a guitar player.
Oh, wow. Yeah, and we're going to show people at home, if they haven't been seeing it already, some killer hairband photos, because you have had rockin' locks for a long time. And so you've been in the music business now for decades. So tell us a little bit about your journey there.
Well, it's interesting because my music career actually started in Austin, and then I got my first big break in New York City, and then that kind of fell through, and then I ended up in Chicago, back to Austin, then in LA for 18 years. So I've kind of been all over the globe. And it's kind of interesting how my music evolved from glam heavy metal to where, you were endorsed by Max Factor to the blues scene, and then New York scene, and then LA, we actually started a really cool Southern rock scene, which is unusual for LA, as you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, it was when you were on your way out to LA, you said that you found yourself sitting on your own hair. It was so long.
Yeah, they called me a hair farmer back in those days.
That's so awesome. But so you've had like a real growth, a lot of change. I would say there's country in what I hear from you now. How would you describe your style nowadays?
I call it bluntry and western. It's a little bit of blues, a little bit of country, a little bit of western swing. So it's a little bit of everything. But I think by being able to go from a market like Chicago to New York to LA really gave this kind of a diverse background. I mean, I grew up on traditional country, and then of course I went to the 80s metal thing. So there's a little bit of it all swirled in a blender, and it comes out sounding the way it does. I really don't.
That's wonderful.
Like, what do you call John Cougar Mellencamp? He's John Cougar. Yeah. So I'm just Leigh. Yeah. I throw it out there, and if people like it, if they don't.
Well, it turns out people are liking it. Not only that, you got picked up for a television show, but the pandemic did throw its best at you. So talk to me a little bit about Juke Joint Legends.
Well, it was interesting. I was in LA hanging out with a couple of producer friends of mine, and we got to talking about music, and they says, Leigh, it's pretty interesting. You've played almost every famous club in the United States, and it's very true. I mean, I've played all the famous clubs in New York and Chicago, LA. And I started thinking about that, scratching my head, going, well, pretty good idea for a show. And so I kind of sat down and wrote a one page, and I threw it out there, and they really liked it. And the cool thing was, I thought, wow, I want this show, all I want to do is just be the host. I don't want to play. I don't want to have to do all that stuff. And the guy goes, oh, man, you got to put a band together. And I was like, oh, not again. So it kind of evolved into this whole setup. But basically, one of my favorite shows was Anthony Bourdain's Parts Unknown, right? Mm-hmm. So I thought, wouldn't a show like that, but with more cinematography and music and all that combined? And that's kind of what we came up with the concept for Juke Joint Legends. So it's kind of...
So sorry, go ahead.
No, I said it's going to be a lot of fun to shoot. And as you know, in production, it's a controlled crash right before the camera rolls. We're shooting in different locations, and we're traveling a lot, so it's going to be difficult. But I'm looking forward to it.
It's awesome. Yeah, we're looking forward to seeing what comes of it. And not only that, but you also have new music out. You've got a new mix of a song you released in the last year, and a song that you say was a real surprise. Sat down one day, recorded it the next, and here it's taken off. So tell us a little bit about Waiting.
Well, the irony is when I write a song, I'm one of those few musicians that I love to be creative first thing in the morning. You know, most musicians don't get until 12 o'clock noon, right? So I'm up at 5 o'clock in the morning plunking on my guitar, and I literally wrote a song on a Thursday, and I came up with the idea, and then I've got a studio set up here in my bus. So the next day I just hit record and wanted to do something with me, my acoustic guitar. And I just added a little cello track on there, and it came out fantastic. And the irony is we released it, and as you know, we can track our record sales. And the next day I woke up, I was like, oh my God, this song sold more downloads in 24 hours than the last two we've released. So it was just kind of one of those phenomenons.
Awesome, yeah. And Cut My Loss is one that you did release in the last year, but you say you're jazzing it up a little bit. You're giving us a remix here shortly.
Nashville mix, which is probably going to have some different background vocals on it, and we'll throw some pedal steel on it, and probably a little banjo. You know, Nashville mixes are a little bit different. The vocals are a little bit more up front, and the background vocals are a little more subdued. So we'll probably do a remix of that here in the next few weeks.
It's exciting, and I feel like we could learn a lot about music and music history culture from you, but unfortunately we are limited on time, so we'll have to leave it there. Leigh, we appreciate your time this morning. Thank you so much, and congratulations on all your new updates. Lots of fun coming there from Leigh. By the way, he has 2 video shoots coming up, so fans can get excited. You can also listen to his newest single, Waiting, on Apple Music today. Stay with us.